السلام عليكم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونتوب إليه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد. First, I wish to express my greetings for the blessings of the month of Ramadan and for this amazing opportunity I've been given to address you as a community, and inshallah to have a little moment together to explore some aspects of the benefits of this blessed month. To ease our way into today's theme and conversation, we are going inshallah ta'ala to borrow from the Holy Quran and reflect on a small but profound verse that offers us many lessons that we can learn and many benefits that we can take, and more importantly, put them to use, inshallah, in our daily lives. Our reflection comes to us from Surah At-Tawbah, and the verse is number 40. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, the verse reads: ثاني اثنين إذ هما في الغار إذ يقول لصاحبه لا تحزن إن الله معنا فأنزل الله سكينته عليه. We will translate it first, then we'll provide the context, and this verse will be our guide to get out of it all of the benefits that we could possibly get today, inshallah ta'ala. ثاني اثنين, it means he was one of two. إذ هما في الغار, the two of them were in the cave. إذ يقول لصاحبه, as one addresses the other, لا تحزن, do not be sad. إن الله معنا, because Allah is with us. فأنزل الله سكينته عليه, and Allah has descended His tranquility upon him. This verse is perhaps in these difficult times more pertinent than ever, because it sits at the intersection of the sacred month of Ramadan, the difficulty that the world is enduring with this pandemic that we are managing and trying to live through, the sense of loss and feeling we have towards those who have really fallen on harder times, either because of the loss of health or the loss of wealth, or because of the difficulties that they had to ensue given the hardships that we are enduring. And more importantly, equally, for really the uncertainty that continues to loom when all of us seem to be at loss, perplexed, and unable to really see a clear on what the future will bring, and when perhaps relief is likely to be in sight. And in many ways, this verse speaks about all of this. How, you might ask, is what we are going to do together as we reflect on this verse together. First and foremost, let us begin with the context. The verse recounts a historical fact that took place in 7th century Arabia, where the Prophet ﷺ was pushed out of his home in Mecca and forced to live in exile. And during his journey, he was accompanied by his beloved friend, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And this verse was revealed in response to this dire situation that the Prophet ﷺ found himself into. It was a difficult situation by any stretch of imagination, which required him to deal with his companion Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, and to seek refuge by confining themselves in the cave that was located at the south of Mecca, actually for a period of time of about 3 days and 3 nights, to stay out of harm's way. The first section of the verse reads with a reaction to this difficulty of the threat of loss of life, the difficulty of confinement, and the uncertainty about the future and what the future will bring. The section that we will deal with first is the one where the verse says, repeating what the Prophet ﷺ reacted to this situation, لا تحزن إن الله معنا. Do not be sad or anxious, is the way that the Prophet ﷺ advised his companion Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala by telling you, beware that Allah is with us. Let us begin perhaps by taking the careful choice of words that the Prophet ﷺ used in this reflection as he provided it. One would have expected the Prophet ﷺ, for consolation purposes, dealing with a friend that's in a difficult situation, to perhaps say something like, do not worry because Allah is with us. And it's interesting that that's not what he said. He said, do not be sad and know that Allah is with us. So why did the Prophet ﷺ put the emphasis on the consolation about sharing the comfort around the argument of not fear, but one of sadness? This careful choice of words is not accidental in difficulties of circumstances that are around us day in and day out. Perhaps many of us are overly invested in managing fear, and they are not invested in managing sadness. The Prophet ﷺ, with this mere and simple use of words, provides us with hidayah, a guidance, an advice, and method and pedagogy on how we deal with this hardship and reality. Why did he do that? I would claim because he was in tune with the reality of those he cared for then and continues to care for now. It is natural, perfectly natural for human beings to be deeply affected with a hardship in the moment of a significant challenge. In many ways, we become captive to that difficult moment. And very few of us, if not the rare exception, have the ability to transcend a difficult moment, to recognize that it is ephemeral and it fits as simply a mere dot into a greater scheme of things. Perhaps all of this could be said in a shorter manner. In short, we get stuck despite our best efforts, and we don't know where to go beyond the point where we get stuck. It is in fact in times like these that the reading of the Holy Quran reveals itself almost like a lantern that lights up the way ahead of us to help us find where we take the next step and where we find the answers to our conundrum. It makes us realize how vulnerable we are, but perhaps more importantly, on how authentic we can be and dare to seek help, to not pretend for once that we have it all, or we know it all, or we understand it all, but to come to the realization that when our wings are clipped, we can be humble. We can seek and ask help. Either way, the strength can come from something that awakens from within us, or for the help that can come from outside. And the idea is to be prepared for both eventualities. Perhaps with our spiritual insight, we are able to see past the limitations of this material world and its constraints, and see on how easily it has run amok. And in that should be a sign, a moment to take it in, to reflect, to ponder what that means, not to put our guards down and not to crawl back into a corner and take on the gloom and doom and feel that now we don't know what to do next. But a moment of reflection, what does that mean and what can we do with it? We can certainly elevate ourselves to get a clearer view past our difficult moment and see where things can go beyond that. But back to our story of the anxiety of Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu that he has experienced and that to him was all consuming. What was that anxiety in that moment of confinement that was so hard and so difficult on him? He saw his beloved friend come face to face with death. Nay, dare I say, that death was literally pursuing him and hunting him down. The earth in the desert that is characterized by vastness closed in on them. It put them into the confines of a tiny cave. And the vanishing solutions to get out of the problem left Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala almost stuck, unable to think about what happens next. The Prophet ﷺ reacts to this as he usually does, with selflessness, total care, sees past his own problems and his own hardship, though he was the target of those who wanted to take away his life. But more importantly, he sees the moment. He sensed that the emotional state of Sayyidina Abu Bakr invested in caring for him was worthy for the Prophet ﷺ to set everything aside, his own hardships, his own difficulties, the uncertainty in front of him, and everything that could befall him, and address the emotional burden of Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He said to him, "Do not be saddened by this situation, because Allah is with us." Subhanallah, because of this teaching, because of this resolve of the Prophet ﷺ, because of this extraordinary care of a friend, of a leader, of a brother who took care of another brother, he invoked the powers of the One, the Eternal, the Protector and the Most Giving, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the next part of the verse. أنزل سكينته عليه. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has descended upon them tranquility. It's as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructed creation to come and to provide solace and comfort. And what I really love about the expression of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expressed this reality that the two of them sensed or experienced, it did not come with thunder and lightning. It didn't come with noise and some fire in the bush. It came in the form of something that is simpler. The weak thread of a spider web. The gentle presence of a dove were used to guard and protect the Holy Prophet ﷺ. And from all of this we learn that when all creation were summoned by the prayer, though we might not suddenly see the answer of our prayers with thunder and lightning, it can come in the gentle signs that we have to see and recognize as they were described here. A mere simple cobweb and a mere simple dove sitting by the area of a cave caused a prophet to be protected and rescued. These are not signs clearly as powerful as other things that have described in the Quran. Perhaps the splitting of the seas for Musa alayhi salam, or the taming of a raging fire for Ibrahim alayhi salam. But this is the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam understands the gentle signs of Allah. It does not need the booming thunder of a louder voice that puts it down to understand the message and make use of it. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue to increase us in knowledge and open up our hearts to see and recognize those signs, to cherish them and to use them as our guide. So let us not think for a moment that this privilege of how the prayers can move the world around us is solely the purview of prophets and messengers, because then it becomes too cerebral, too distanced from us, something that we cannot attain. Maybe we can savor it, maybe we can enjoy it, maybe we can talk about it, but it is not utilitarian, it's not a tool that we can put to use. No, far from that. The equivalent of it does exist for each and every one of us. This power of prayer, make no mistake about it, is available. It's available now more than ever for the taking in these blessed hours of the month of Ramadan. You could be sitting at home and as a father make prayer for your children, and as a child make prayers for your parents, and as a wife make prayer for your husband, and as a husband make prayer for your wife, and as siblings make prayers for each other's. When it is done sincerely and passionately, it can unlock the same mystery and miracle, and it can make the impossible become possible. SubhanAllah, just witness the experience of our mother, Hajar, when she was abandoned into the desert of the Arabian Peninsula at a time where it was not populated, nor did it have designated pathways that people knew about. She was literally abandoned in the middle of the desert, without food, without drink. To quench her thirst and that of the child that was nursing in her, she prayed. Her prayer caused the earth to gush forth with water, and ever since, we drink from it up to this day. It did not simply solve her problem. It is healing billions of people over time, because it took the prayer of a mother, not necessarily the prayer of a prophet or a messenger. So know that this is available to all of us. Good people get help every day in the most amazing and the most miraculous way, because somebody sends good wishes and good prayers from them. I'll give you a practical example, something that is very dear and close to me personally. Recently, I read about a project in France. After the government issued a confinement order to protect its population against the pandemic, that order left elderly people living by themselves without the care of relatives that were close to them, abandoned, and with no access to food supplies or the critical medicine that they needed. A number of young Muslims built an Uber-like service with an army of volunteers to deliver the needed food, the medicine, and they made it better. The food that they brought to every elderly person that they could serve was given to them for free as an act of kindness. In many ways, for me personally, I look upon the network that these entrepreneurial and mashallah bright horizons of Muslims that make of Islam something incredibly beautiful, like that spider web. They use this web, this social medium of connecting people together to harness their resources together, much like that cobweb was built to protect the Prophet ﷺ. And each and every one of them putting in an effort were like that dove that protected the Prophet ﷺ. They offered their protection. They offered their help. You can see that the Quran manifests itself, the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ manifests itself at any time, under any circumstances, when people align and do something for good. The truth of the matter is, every event we have in our lives, whether it is hard or easy, should be a call to all people of faith to display their better angels. There are many ways it can be done. I in no way, form, shape will be presumptuous to claim that I know how it should be done. But perhaps just as a starting point for those who can be a source because they have something to offer and give, like the Prophet ﷺ did by saying to his companion, do not be sad because Allah is with us. You could be that person. You could say the same thing to someone and do it in a manner that makes it worth it. For those who can be in a position to receive the offering and the blessing that came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the form of tranquility, when that tranquility comes to you, give yourself permission to allow that tranquility to permeate your being and not be agitated, and give it a moment to settle in. Subhanallah, that in this event narrated by the Quran, the confinement experience turned out to be something extraordinary in Islamic history. A turning point in the bond of friendship between a prophet and a disciple. The launchpad of Islam to go from an experience that was at risk of being extinct to a thriving and beautiful religion that gives all of us around this call the right to be here and the honor to call ourselves Muslims. At a human and personal level, the verses unpack more for us, more insight, more in-depth understanding. We can see that these two people, as people, their patience brought them good. Their trial and hardship also brought them some good. Their faith and resilience elevated them to heights that we can only aspire to attain one day. And at the end, they fired out better because they recognized the short nature of the moment in the context of the certainty that Allah is the master of time and the universe. And here is why this story appeals to me more than any others. It is not set against the backdrop of epic battles that captivate our imaginations, sword fightings of heroes and cults around them, countless numbers of marching armies raising dust and noise and cloud in the skies. It does not even have the imagery and the poetry of momentous events that seem to be large productions in history. It's an intimate moment. It's just between two friends. It's simple. It's tied to the frailty and human emotions. It's about sadness. It's about love for one another and the difficulties we endure and how we put our lives in someone else's hands and trust that they will see us through it. It's about deep faith, personal resilience, and the strength we derive from each other when the bond that unites us, whether it is family, friendship, brotherhood, and sisterhood, stems from the source that is called Islam. In it, we find the source of our life. Without it, we find our certain spiritual death. I will conclude with the next section of the verse, which brings into focus something else complementary to the first part, in which the Prophet ﷺ brought the tranquility to his friend by telling him and consoling him, asking him not to be sad. He then made the disclosure, the Prophet ﷺ made a disclosure to him by saying, Inna Allah ma'ana. Know that Allah is with us. There is a hadith, an authentic hadith, in which it was said that the Prophet ﷺ said in this moment when he was talking to Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Ma dhannuka bithnayn. What do you think about two who have gathered? Allahu thalithuhuma, where God is the third one present in their midst. I have a practice every single time that I solemnize an Islamic wedding. I always remind the bride and the groom that know that today the two of you are coming together, but if you want to be successful, make the third party in your journey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I always give this advice. And you see here how the Prophet ﷺ used it in a much more powerful and much more eloquent context. He said to Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, what do you think, that it's only the two of us who are here? Know that the third one present amongst us is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To say that God is amongst us, and that statement emanating from the mouth of the Prophet ﷺ, that is not lip service. It's a description of reality. It's a call to action. This comes through as a double movement. Feeling the presence of Allah, but more importantly, acting the presence of Allah. Acting the presence of Allah is about being of service to others. Confinement or not, and however confinement will last or take long, it does not need to lead to a personal meltdown, because Allah is there. If it is a family of two people, He has blessed that home with His presence. If it is a family of 5 people, He's the 6th presence that has blessed that home. If it is a family of 7 people, He's the 8th presence that blessed that gathering and that home together. We need to know that. We need to embrace that. We need to take that. We need to realize that. We need to act like that is factual. When the Prophet ﷺ was confined in the cave, and let's be clear on what the differences are between then and now. It was without amenities. It was without comfort. It was about the certainty of the guaranteed food that would come in the next hour or in the next 2 hours. And certainly it was also cut off from the rest of the world. And he had only one person and one companion, a friend of his. He gave it all. He gave himself. He gave his entire strength and power to care for his companion. And Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu reciprocated. What the experience did, it elevated both. In this, we find a good model. This is why the heritage of our Prophet ﷺ is called the Sunnah. It's a model for us to follow. Would we like to devote ourselves to someone in our care? Is it time? Perhaps today is a starting point. Instead of being perhaps on edge or grumpy or difficult to be around. Do we have other creative means beyond my humble and very simple cases that I have advocated today that we can help with? The idea of our brothers and sisters of creating an Uber service in France comes to mind. And if nothing else, can we use this time to improve our character by shedding a less desirable trait we have? Oh, how many shortcomings we have, undermining our foundation and defacing the beauty of our being. Dropping those would be an investment that dignifies this verse and this teaching. There is a beautiful piece of the seerah that is reported of an action of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. صعد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إلى المنبر فقال. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم ascended to the minbar, and on his way up he was saying Ameen. But people heard his confirmation of this Ameen to a prayer, but they didn't hear where it came from. So they were intrigued. قالوا, they said, Ya Rasulullah, allama amint. Who are you saying Amin to, or what are you saying Amin about? قال, جاءني جبريل. As I was ascending to the minbar, Jibril came to me, and that's the angel of revelation. فقال لي, he said to me, خاب وخسر من أدرك رمضان ولم يغفر له. It is a calamity, a disaster, a loser for the person who reaches the month of Ramadan and does not benefit from the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إن لم يغفر له فمتى. And if it is not going to happen now, then when? When will there ever be another opportunity like this one? So after we build the foundation, we need to sustain it. The Prophet ﷺ said something just amazing. He said, Man asbaha, you wake up in the day, wa akbara hammuhu al-akhirah, and you make your concern the success of the hereafter. جعل الله غناه في قلبه. God will make prosperity and wealth in his heart. وجمع عليه شمله. وأتته الدنيا وهي راغمة. It's like the imagery where life will come and having like a truck that comes in and dumps success and offers itself to you every single day. Then he offers the other view. وَمَنْ أَصْبَحَ وَأَكْبَرَ هَمُّهُ الدُّنْيَا. And whoever starts the day and the only thing that they are anxious about is, how do I get through the day, or how do I make a buck today? جَعَلَ اللَّهُ فَقْرَهُ بَيْنَ عَيْنَيْهِ. Allah will make poverty haunt him as if it is something fixated in front of his eyes. وَلَمْ يُؤْتَهُ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَا قَدَرَ لَهُ. And Allah will not give him from this life except that which has been apportioned to him. Subhanallah. When we speak about intelligence, when we speak about discernment in our tradition, we speak about the discernment of the heart that has the ability to understand these messages, these ideas, the things that we share in moments like this. So I conclude by praying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He protects you and your families and keep you safe into these hard times, that He eases your burden and inshallah make this hardship and this difficulty lift hastily. But above all, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to open our hearts and minds to learn from what we have endured in these events, to better ourselves and become more faithful and more caring human beings. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم Wassalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Dr. Lazzouni, for the amazing talk. Lot to learn from it. We are opening it up for questions. So if anybody wants to chat their questions, or they would like me to unmute them and want to say their questions, either is fine. And also keep in mind that this will be posted on our YouTube channel as well as on our Facebook page. So you can always hear the recording of this khatira. Everybody chat. I can unmute people if that works better.
Medicine too. We're isolated.
Hello.
Yeah.
Is there any questions on the line? Dr. Lazzouni, it looks like your lecture was very clear, and everybody is still reflecting and thinking about all your words.
Jazakallah khair. I appreciate that, and may Allah bless you all, inshallah, and then we'll bring the meeting to an end, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah bless you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.